Hello, good afternoon. Welcome teachers and administrators and other colleagues. I'm here today to talk to you about RTI and MTSS, and my name is Elizabeth Holtz. But before we talk about RTI and MTSS, it's important to understand special education in the past. Special education has come a long way. It's common knowledge in the educational community that at one time individuals were institutionalized. Thankfully, we aren't at that point anymore. However, there's still much more work to do. So the question remains, how did we get here? In the past, general education teachers recommended the student was evaluated, and then we had a discrepancy model. And there had to be a big enough gap between the student's achievement and their intellectual functioning. But the problem with this was that this discrepancy model resulted in many students not being identified because they essentially weren't struggling enough. Students that didn't qualify often did not receive any additional supports in the general education classroom. And my source for this is the Paper Trails SAT and RTI video by Joyce Miller. Now, states can no longer require schools to use the discrepancy model. This is reflected in this regulation, Federal Regulation 300.8. And now we have response to intervention and MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support. RTI and MTSS will be discussed further on in the following slides though. And this information is sourced from Paper Trails SAT and RTI by Joyce Miller, my instructor. What is RTI? RTI stands for Response to Intervention. It's about giving students high quality instruction and intervention services, and it has 3 tiers. Tier 1 is the general ed classroom. It's where all the students start, and an important piece of this is that it's research-based. Tier 2 is some intervention. It's targeted instruction. And then Tier 3, it's the most intensive instruction on the tiers. And a really important thing to remember about these tiers is that they build off of each other and they kind of support each other. So for example, if a student is receiving Tier 2 instruction, then they're still receiving that Tier 1 general ed classroom instruction. And if the student is receiving Tier 3 instruction, then they're still receiving that assistance from Tier 2 and Tier 1. So RTI starts with general education teacher referring a student to the SAT, which is the student assistance team. The student assistance team does not simply refer the student to special education. That would be a big jump. Rather, the SAT makes a plan for how to provide the student services. The SAT often includes a member that coordinates the meeting. This is usually a school counselor, or it can be a school administrator. And the other members of the student assistance team really change frequently. The members could be a school social worker, or maybe even a special education teacher. It all just depends on what the student needs. And my source for this is Paper Trail SAT and RTI video from Joyce Miller. RTI consists of 3 tiers. The first tier is the lowest level of intervention. It's provided by the student's general ed teacher in the general ed classroom. It's scientifically based and it has benchmark assessments. Tier 2 is for students that are performing significantly low in comparison to their peers. So this is smaller group instruction than you would get in the general education classroom. And it's between 1 to 5 students for every 1 teacher. I apologize for that. Technical difficulties. Okay. And Tier 3 is the highest level of intervention. Intervention is more frequent and it's in smaller groups. And provides an additional minimum of 2 sessions of 30 minutes for every day. Maybe inside or outside the general education classroom setting. The evaluation process. What if a student's unsuccessful at Tier 3? Well, a referral is made to Tier 3 by the SAT, and an IEP team will then determine whether the student is going to qualify for services, which is a whole separate process. A parent can request to have their student qualify for special education services. However, a really important piece of this is that the team can decide that the student needs to go through the RTI steps first. So they might say something like, unfortunately, we don't have enough evidence at this time to determine whether or not the student truly needs special education services. And then they might recommend that a student get Tier 2 services or Tier 3 services before moving straight on to the special education services. So what are the positives and the negatives of RTI? Well, the positives include that RTI allows students to have more individualized instruction faster. And it would be unrealistic to expect teachers to provide one-on-one instruction to every single student. Therefore, RTI does a great job of striving towards the goal of giving every student the education they deserve. Because that's why we're all here, right? To try and help the student. Some of the negatives of RTI include that it doesn't address the social, emotional, and behavioral needs of the students. And that'll be addressed with MTSS later on in this presentation. And it can also be longer for students that, it can take longer for students that truly need special ed services to receive the services. And my source for this is an article from readinghorizons.com that's titled, "What's the Difference Between RTI and MTSS?" So, what is MTSS? Well, MTSS stands for Multi-Tiered System of Supports. It's a system of supports. It focuses on instruction, intervention, and assessment. Students' needs are addressed academically, socially, and behaviorally. It clearly defines the roles and responsibilities of teachers and other individuals working in the school system. And once again, my source for this is an article from Reading Horizons. What are the positives and negatives of MTSS? So some of the positives include the whole child benefits. So the child is going to benefit socially, emotionally, and academically, not just academically. MTSS gives various supports to teachers, including professional development, coaching on teaching methods, and other supports. And it also clearly defines the roles and responsibilities of teachers and other individuals working in the school system. Some negatives include the teachers are required to work more collaboratively, which can be a positive or a negative depending on how the teachers work together. And it also might take students more time to receive the special education services because it's a longer process. RTI, it's a piece of cake. Okay, so maybe it's not super easy to understand, but I do have a point I'm trying to make here. RTI is like one piece of MTSS. So if you imagine taking, this is RTI, just going to take a piece of the cake. And then MTSS would be like the whole entire cake. And it's important to remember that RTI only includes the intervention process. So, what's the main difference between RTI and MTSS? MTSS addresses other aspects of the student, socially, emotionally, and behaviorally. MTSS is more focused on prevention, while RTI focuses on intervention. And going back to the cake example, RTI might have sprinkles, while MTSS has extra chocolate. Food for thought. No pun intended. Or maybe there was a little bit. So what does this mean for you as a teacher? Stop, collaborate, and listen. Because MTSS requires a lot of collaboration between general education teachers and special education teachers. And it also requires greater collaboration between the school and the district. And since there are many elements to MTSS, teachers must stay informed about how laws may change over time. And once again, my source for this is Reading Horizons. Why move to MTSS? MTSS addresses other aspects of the student, including socially, emotionally, and behaviorally. It fosters collaboration. It provides more support for the teachers. And once again, my source for this is Reading Horizons. What are the evaluation requirements? So here I've just listed a couple of different codes, laws, regulations that we as teachers have to follow. Initial evaluation, screening for instructional purposes, reevaluation, evaluation procedures, and additional requirements for an evaluation. And this information comes from a PowerPoint by my instructor at Siena Heights, Joyce Miller. So thank you so much for all listening today. I really hope you gained something from this. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email me at efoltz@sienaheights.edu. And then just really quickly, my sources, Joyce Miller, PowerPoint and videos, PowerPoint Trail, Evaluation Process PowerPoint, Paper Trail, SAT and RTI video by Joyce Miller, and then the article, What's the Difference Between RTI and MTSS, from Reading Horizons. Thank you again so much, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.